Welcome everyone to our sharing session, and tonight I'd like to share another rebirth case from a record of sages in the Pure Land. And as I have introduced before, this is a book that recorded about nearly 900 rebirth cases from ancient time in China till the time of Republic of China. If you want to know more about this book, if it's your first time, then you can refer to my first session on this series. Okay, so tonight it's the rebirth case of Master Fayun, his mother, and also many other people. So the title of this rebirth case not only have Master Fayun and the mother, and also other names. The other names, they were quite long, so I didn't put them all in here, but it's actually on the first page. I put them in Chinese. So it's Fayun, his mother, Wang Ling, Zhang Qi, Wu Yanyin, Jing Ting Gui, Qian An Ren. So anyway, many other people as well. And as we talk about this, you will get to know. So it's from Volume 1, page 357, which maybe a lot of people do not have access. If you can speak Chinese, you know Chinese, you can actually download a copy. Actually, I'll save this Chinese copy of this book into our Pure Land library for those who are interested. If you can read Chinese, you can download them. And eventually, I'll also translate all the rebirth cases into English, and then also adding on recent rebirth cases. So we'll have definitely over 1,000 rebirth cases. And bear in mind, even these 1,000 rebirth cases are actually nothing. It's nothing compared to really the real numbers of how many beings actually sought rebirth to the Pure Land, also in this world. Many people sought rebirth to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land without being recorded down by anyone. And also other beings from other realms, not only the human realms. So according to Master Yin Guang, there could be at least millions, if not billions, who actually sought rebirth to the Pure Land in our world. Not only just the human realms and other realms as well. It could be more than what we could even imagine. The Pure Land Dharma has a history of over 1,600 years in China. So really a lot of rebirth cases. And remember, in ancient time in China, the technology was not so advanced. Not unlike this day, someone saw rebirth, maybe on the internet you get to know. In the past, not many people knew. Okay, so tonight the rebirth case also very inspiring from this great Dharma master, Venerable Fayun. So Fayun literally means Dharma cloud in Chinese. So he's from Changzhou in Jiangsu province. Jiangsu province is southeast of China, very beautiful province. Jiangsu and Zhejiang, all these are very rich and beautiful provinces in China. So his parents prayed to the Buddha while dreaming of a monk who said, "I want to host my divine consciousness here." Okay, so in Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, sometimes we also use the word to pray to the Buddha, to pray to the Bodhisattvas. And bear in mind, we don't mean, it's still a bit different to say like to pray to God, maybe from another religion, because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they are not God as in creator absolute, right? They did not create anything. They are just perfectly enlightened beings, highly enlightened beings with also great spiritual powers and perfect wisdom and everything. So ordinary beings, particularly in China, it has this tradition, a long tradition to pray to the Buddha, to Bodhisattvas, to help them fulfill their wish. A lot of Buddhists, they try to do that, especially for if they're new into Buddhism, they don't know so much about maybe the Buddhist sutras. A lot of lay people, but Guan Yin, remember the great Bodhisattva Guan Yin promised that she will help people to escape from dangers if they recited her name. And so this has been actually a long tradition in Chinese Mahayana Buddhism to pray to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. but just know that it bears a different meaning to say one praise to the God, the creator absolute. Okay. And Chinese people really has a long sort of a tradition, a long time tradition to pay homage to sages as well. Okay, so I want to host my divine consciousness here, but the divine consciousness also refers to it as our 8th layer consciousness, also called divine consciousness. So in Chinese, 神识. When Venerable Fayun was born, he looked like the monk they had dreamed of, with a strange appearance. Okay, so quite obviously, Venerable Fayun is someone who comes back, right? Maybe a Buddha or a Bodhisattva who comes back to help. So when he was an infant, he was happy to see monks and wanted to approach them. An infant could be like 1 to 3 years old. So even just like this young, he already like monks very much and want to approach them. At the age of 5, he left his parents and paid homage to Master Ci Xingfang. So Ci Xingfang Gong is like his teacher at that time. So obviously the parents knew that this little kid or infant was extraordinary, not just ordinary, normal person, but he maybe really carried a mission to come here. So they let him go at the age of 5 to study the Dharma. And at the age of 9, he was ordained as a monk. So maybe at that time, there was no sort of age requirement for someone to be ordained as a monk. Unlike now, if you like to be ordained as a monk, say in China, you need to be at least 18 years old. But at that time, he could do that when he was only 9. And he received the full monastic precepts at the age of 20. Okay, very, very impressive, impressive CV, impressive resume for Master Fayun. What were we doing at the age of 9 or 20, right? So in the 4th year of the reign of Zhezong Shaosheng of the Northern Song Dynasty, it's about 1097, very far away from us. So at that time in ancient China, when we talk about a year, we use that emperor's name. Okay, so it's the Northern Song Dynasty. So he first studied the teachings of the Tiantai school with Venerable Tong Zhao. So in Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, we have 8 schools. So Tiantai, initially there were actually more schools, but nowadays just like 8 main schools. Actually, the most popular ones are just Pure Land and Chen nowadays. And Tiantai was also quite popular, particularly in the old days. So Tiantai is actually the first founded Mahayana school by Master Zhiyi or Master Zhizhe, also known as the Little Shakyamuni Buddha in China. So he studied the Tiantai school with this great teacher. And in the following year, he studied with the Venerable Ming of the Tianzhu. So Tianzhu in Chinese, it refers to ancient India at that time. So maybe this Venerable Ming was actually an Indian monk and received and upheld incredible teachings. So at that time, it was not uncommon to have monks travel from India to China to spread the teachings. And finally, he attained the teachings from Master Qingbian of Nanping Mountain. Okay, here, which it literally means this person has actually attained enlightenment. When it says attain the teachings, he completely got it. So Master Fayun got it, got the Dharma, the essence of the Dharma, and became enlightened. Right, really, really impressive. In the seventh year of the reign of Emperor Huizong of the Northern Song Dynasty, okay, also another emperor, he was invited by scholar Yin An Dao to stay at the Dajuejiao temple. So Dajuejiao literally means the Great Awakening Teachings Temple in Song Jiang, and was given the name Master Pu Ren. So Pu Ren literally means universal nurture, like the rain. Like the rain can universally nurture all sentient beings, or like the Dharma. From now on, scholars gathered to follow Master Fayun. For 8 years, he taught the Lotus Sutra, the Golden Bright Light Sutra, the Nirvana Sutra, also known as the Parinirvana Sutra, the Vimalakirti Sutra, and other Mahayana classics. Okay, so this great Dharma master can expose many sutras. So very impressive by all these great Mahayana classics. And for Pure Land practitioners, one also doesn't need to be attached and think, oh, I now practice the Pure Land path. I can only kneel for, I cannot read or recite other sutras. It's not like that, right? Different people have different capacities, different preferences, different ways of learning, etc. So according to one's preferences and capacities, you can, for some people, for them, they just like, I only want to kneel for, I don't want to do anything else. That's also fine. And they may just want to sort of exclusively kneel for, they don't even want to know about any sutras, right? Because to them, they think they can maybe focus the best in that way. They can attain peace of mind. Great, perfect, they can do that. And for others, they may like to also study the sutras, like recite the sutras, or even the mantras. That's also fine. And they kneel for, and in addition to kneel for, they can also add on other practices. This is also fine. And so one does not need to argue about which way is better, okay? Which way that's most suitable to you is the best. It's not like the best way. And sometimes I see some Pure Land practitioners, they're like, oh, you can only kneel for, you cannot do anything else. This is sort of a bit of an extreme interpretation of the Pure Land Dharma. And if you read the sutras, it does not say that. Okay, nowhere in the sutra says you can only kneel for, you cannot practice other Dharma practices. Okay, nowhere says that. That's not the right interpretation. So it's just according to different people's preferences and capacities. You can do whatever you feel like, as long as you also kneel for. Okay, you can just kneel for, or you can also add on to other practices. Like for me, my primary practice is kneel for, but I also like to study the sutras. I like to study all the Pure Land sutras and also other Mahayana classics, including the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, the Siddhagarbha Sutra, the Lotus Sutra. So anyway, I'm a big fan of learning sutras because I feel just reading these words, I feel like the Buddha is communicating with me, because the sutras are the teachings of the Buddha. So when we are reading the sutras, it's like we are also listening from the Buddha directly. And it also helps me to enhance my understanding in Mahayana Buddhism. So it's a very helpful way. And for people who are interested, you can also do that. Later, when his mother became old and wanted to repay her kindness, so he wanted to repay kindness to his mother. So he's also he showed like his filial piety towards the mother. So we're not saying for monks or just any Buddhists, you cannot pay respect to your mother or your parents. And sometimes people think, oh, if people take the monastic life, it seems that they're a bit cold-blooded, like they don't care for their family, etc. It's not like that. Like here, clearly, Master Fayun set a good example. We still, for people who take the monastic life, they still care for the family, but maybe in a different way, maybe a little bit different from maybe in a conventional lifestyle where you take care of them, maybe physically, financially. But for Buddhists and for monks, for nuns, how they take care of the family can be spiritually, which is also more important. Eventually, we also want to lead all our family to the Pure Land. That is the greatest filial piety, greatest kindness, greatest respect you can show to your parents. So he wanted to repay her kindness, and he left the temple and returned to his hometown. He built a little hut next to his ancestral tomb and named it the Hidden Cloud. However, people who came from afar to ask for the gist of cultivation often filled the door. So even if he left the temple and went back to his hometown to want to help his mother, but still people would come from afar to ask him about how to cultivate the Dharma. He then built statues of the 3 Western sages and taught to a wide range of sentient beings. So the 3 Western sages we all know, Amitabha Buddha, Guan Yin, right, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, and then Da Shizhi, Bodhisattva Mahatma Prapta. So the 2 greatest assistants to Amitabha Buddha. Together, they are known as the 3 Western sages, which reside in the Pure Land, and also have different incarnations in all worlds to help save sentient beings. So later, when his mother became slightly ill, Venerable Fayun preached the Heart Sutra and recited Amitabha Buddha at night by her bedside. So when her mother became ill, he would taught the Heart Sutra to his mother and also Nianfo by her bedside. So it's a very good way to assist the dying as well. So you don't need to preach the Heart Sutra. You can just Nianfo, maybe easier. This preach the Heart Sutra. So who had also done that in the past? In the history of China, it's a very famous case. At that time, Li Shiming, an emperor of Tang Dynasty. So does anyone know who actually translated the Heart Sutra from the Sanskrit to Chinese? So it was Master Xuanzang. So I think a lot of people are familiar with the name of Master Xuanzang. So Master Xuanzang traveled to India for 19 years and brought back a lot of Mahayana sutras to China. And before he left for China to India, he arrived in nowadays Sichuan province. And at that time, he encountered an old man. So not only like an old man, like this man had his face had like a serious illness, okay? His face did not look pleasant at all. No one wanted to be close to him. Maybe he smelled really poorly. So just like a very poor person with serious illness. And then Master Xuanzang, however, did not mind. And he really helped him out with his heart. And after he looked after this person for a while, this person recovered. And this person said, to repay your kindness, there's nothing else I can give you, but let me give you this. And then he taught him the Heart Sutra. And after he taught him the Heart Sutra, this person disappeared. And he told him before he left for India, on your way to India, if you encounter any difficulties, you just recite this Heart Sutra and it will help you. So before Master Xuanzang always recited the name of Guan Yin, Namo Amituofo. So on his way, whenever he encountered any difficulties or sort of any illusions, visions, really horrible, scary visions, he will also recite the name of Guan Yin to help him get over that. But sometimes, even if he recited the name of Guan Yin, those visions still did not go away, or other beings who came to sort of disturb him did not go away. And then what he did then was to recite the Heart Sutra. And after he recited the Heart Sutra, then they disappeared. So the power of the Heart Sutra is incredible. Also the Sutra of Guan Yin. It's also from Guan Yin preached this sutra. And then when he arrived in India, eventually after 3 years of walking on foot most of the time, and encountered so many difficulties, near-death experiences, etc. And then he asked the abbot about this idea. Abbot was so surprised. Oh, how actually, could you on earth arrive here safely all the way from China without anybody's help? And then he said, I carried this Heart Sutra with me. I recited the Heart Sutra whenever I encountered difficulties. And then the Abbo said, where did you attend this great sutra? And then he said, I found this old sick man I met before I left for India. And then this Abbo said, oh, you know, that old man was the incarnation of Guan Yin, an emanation of Guan Yin, who actually came to help you. So that's how Ha Sutra got translated. And when Xuanzang eventually went back to China, the emperor at that time, Li Shiming. So before Master Xuanzang left for China, the emperor was not Li Shiming yet, it was someone else. Oh, I cannot really remember the details. And he was not allowed, or maybe it could have been Li Shiming, but he only just took over the kingdom, okay, very new, and he did not actually allow anybody to go overseas at that time. It was very much prohibited, but he actually went out of China illegally, so really incredible. And when he came back, Li Shiming was so surprised. Wow, this great master actually, you know, helped me spread my names overseas. That's so wonderful. Now everybody knows the Tang Dynasty. I am the emperor. I should really welcome him. And he really treated Master Xuanzang with great respect. And Master Xuanzang came back. He really wanted to, you know, for him to give up his monastic life. He gave up his status as a monk, but rather to join the officials in the emperor in the court to assist him with his sort of daily business. And then Master Xuanzang said, no. All I wanted to do was to translate the sutras and preach the Dharma. And towards the later years of Li Shiming's life, the emperor's life, he realized, oh wow, actually all is impermanent. Why was I so attached to everything? And then at the time of his death, he only asked one person to accompany him, and it was Master Xuanzang. And then he asked Master Xuanzang, you know, now I'm dying. As an emperor, I had enjoyed all the pleasures I could have in the world, or anybody dreamed of. But now I'm about to die. I'm, you know, a bit scared. What should I do? What kind of a sutra should I read? And then Master Xuanzang, just over one night, translated the Ha Sutra into Chinese. So before, when he went to India, he maybe just recited in Sanskrit. Master Xuanzang also knew Sanskrit and many other languages. He learned everything on his way to India. Really a genius. And he said, okay, I'll translate this Ha Sutra. So he did it overnight and then preached the Ha Sutra to Li Shiming by his bedside. And then he died peacefully. So that's also another sort of side story. And that's what Master Fayun did to her mother as well. I preached the Ha Sutra and recited Amitabha Buddha to his mother. Okay, so a bit of a side story. So the golden light of Amitabha Buddha was felt. And at that time, his mother and all the people in the four directions had all seen it. So there was some auspicious side revealed when he nianfo to his mother. Since the extraordinary and auspicious side was clearly revealed, her mother naturally attained rebirth to the Pure Land peacefully at the end of her life. After the cremation, the relics were as bright and clear as round pearls. After a few days, true signs of lotus flowers appeared. Okay, so all these auspicious signs that assured signs of her mother definitely seeking rebirth. And sometimes we also don't need these signs to know whether somebody has attained rebirth or not. And most importantly, it's because this person nianfo with faith and vow. Okay, sometimes there might not need to be any signs, but when we see these signs, it's definitely help us also deepen our faith, right? Assured beings here. Definitely these things are real. So then in the 14th year of the Xiaxing of Emperor Gaozong of the Southern Song Dynasty, so another emperor took over. The monks of a monastery, so most likely the monasteries in Jingde temple of Suzhou, led the public to welcome Venerable Fayun back to the monastery to lead all the people. In the 15th year of Shaoxing, he invited, maybe a typo here, maybe 1145, he invited the statue of the Buddha into the temple. So remember, he built the 3 statues before. Maybe he invited those statues or other statue into the temple and built a magnificent pavilion to house it, and advocated the revitalization of the Nianfo Lotus Society. So in the past, in China, also the first patriarch, Master Huiyuan, also created this White Lotus Society. And here, Master Fayun sort of created this Nianfo Lotus Society. We're also going to have Nianfo Lotus Society, gathering thousands of people to recite the visualization sutra of the infinite life Buddha and recite Amitabha Buddha's name, as well as holding the 8 precept ceremony, the golden bright light repentance. So a word on the visualization sutra of the infinite light Buddha here. So this is one of the 3 primary Pure Land Sutras, which we'll also talk about when we talk about the 9 grades of rebirth. So this is actually the most important sutra. And the Infinite Life Sutra is also the most important. All of them are important. But this one, Visualization Sutra, talks in most details about the 9 grades of rebirth. So it's very, very important for Pure Land practitioners, which we will talk about it in details later. The Lotus Sutra repentance, the great compassion repentance, the practice of the universal enlightenment, and the Vajra repentance. Vajra means diamond. So all these are like Dharma events. Nowadays in China, in many temples, there are also Dharma events like this. Maybe not exactly like how it was done in the past, but for instance, nowadays, now in temple, we are doing like, tonight is actually Fo Qi for us in the temple, the beginning of Fo Qi in the temple. And then also for this month, like the whole month, we'll recite the Siddhagarbha Sutra, because July is like the month of Siddhagarbha Bodhisattva. So many creative Dharma events happening, but all these are based on the sutras, the Buddha's teachings, all of which were transferred as provisions towards seeking rebirth to the West. Now remember, all the things we do, like all the merit we cultivated here on earth for Pure Land practitioners, we transfer all of them like provisions towards seeking rebirth to the West. Like we can't really bring anything with us. The only thing we can bring with us is our karma, like our merit. So we just transfer all the merit towards seeking rebirth to the Pure Land. As a result, all the distinguished scholars and noble people from all directions, admiring his noble conduct, have been eager to approach Venerable Fayun, and eventually all had transcended life and death and achieved Buddhahood. So how they achieved Buddhahood? Because they sought rebirth to the Pure Land. For example, Wang Ling, Zhang Qi, Wu Yanjing, Jing Tinggui, and Qian Anren were all reborn in the Western Pure Land, one after another. So all these names, we don't really know them, but maybe at that time they were quite famous, maybe like famous celebrities. When I say celebrities, I don't mean like movie stars, but it could be famous scholars or who knows, officials, or literate, noble people in the society. I don't know. So they could be, these people could be quite well known at that time in his time, his dynasty. Okay. Venerable Fayun compiled the collection of translated names. So this could be, at that time, a lot of sutras, they were translated from the Sanskrit into the Chinese, right? And sometimes when we read Chinese sutras, because at that time, when the sutras have been translated, a lot of words one cannot find in Chinese. For instance, Anuttaya Sanya Sambodhi, right? The perfect enlightenment, perfect Buddhahood, unsurpassed enlightenment. Like these words, we do not really have exactly the same thing in Chinese. So how they have translated was actually to keep the original Sanskrit pronunciation, right? And then to just write it in Chinese character. So even for me as well, at the beginning when I read the Chinese sutras, a lot of things I did not understand because they just did not make sense when you just read them. If you had not actually studied some terminologies, let's say Buddhist terminologies, to actually get to understand. So Master Fayun compiled a collection of translated names, maybe to make people to understand sutras better, which I'm also going to do that in the future. When I'm currently translate some Pure Land Sutras, and there are some words, when I sort of translate directly into English, it would not make sense. And absolutely, one would be like, what's this? And these are just Buddhist terminologies that need to be explained. And when you understand the meaning of those words, then it makes sense. And he also commented on the Diamond Sutra and the Prajnahat Sutra, etc., all of which have been handed down at that time. When Venerable Fayun had finished all the work he had due, on the 28th day of the 9th month of the 28th year of the reign of Emperor Shaoxing of the 7th Song Dynasty, after bathing and dressing, he sat uprightly, facing west, and summoned his disciples, saying, "Each of you, remembering the fire of impermanence that burns out the world of birth and death, that burns out the world of samsara, the world of birth and death, should seek your own deliverance, own self-deliverance early, and be careful not to be lazy." Well, this is such a good advice for all of us. We should all remember the fire of impermanence. And whenever you want to be lazy, which maybe we're lazy all the time, right? It's so easy to be lazy these days. Just remember that impermanence can hit us at any moment in sort of any way we may sort of least expected it. So always remember to Nianfo, to be diligent in our practice. And do not forget to Nianfo with faith and vow, not to be lazy. He also wrote a verse, "The jade tree stands in the clouds, and the purple cloud platform is even higher. No birth one attains birth in that land, not moving at all." Okay, so this rebirth case did not sort of explain what this verse means. I'll just sort of maybe give a little bit of my own interpretation. If I'm wrong, forgive me, but this is sort of how I understand what this verse actually means. So the jade tree stands in the clouds, and the purple cloud platform is even higher. So to me, this means that he's already seen the Pure Land. The Pure Land has trees made of jade made of 7 jewels, many jewels. So the jade tree stands in the clouds, describing the scenes in the Pure Land, and the purple cloud platform is even higher. So the purple cloud platform could be the platform that Amitabha Buddha or Guan Yin bring to receive this being. When we talk about the 9 grades of rebirth, it will be quite clear. For beings who attain the highest level of the highest grade, Guan Yin will bring the purple golden platform to receive this person. So he's obviously seeing that, and he's obviously attaining the highest level of the highest grade of rebirth, for sure, no doubt. So he's seeing all this. No birth, one attains birth in that land. Remember, our essence is actually no birth. We have no birth and no death. Again, no birth, no death means infinite life. And this is the true essence of who we are. When we talk about this Buddha nature is no birth, no death. Okay, no beginning, no end. Sometimes people say, what creates everything? What creates the universe? What's the essence of the universe? It's actually no birth, no death. no beginning, no end. The phenomena has beginning, phenomena could have beginning, could have end. Oh, it's like a cycle, right? But the essence of everything is actually no birth and no death. The essence of our true being is no birth and no death. And this we will know when we realize enlightenment, and when we attain rebirth in the Pure Land. Actually, we have no birth and no death, but the birth and death we experience here in the cycle of samsara is like an illusion. It's just like we discard this temporary physical body. Right? That's what we call illusion. Illusion means temporary. It's not real. What we call real in Buddhism is permanent. Right? Okay, so all of things that's happening here is an illusion because it's not permanent. Okay, so it's not real. The true essence of who we are is in fact no birth and no death. But why we don't call it eternal? Why we don't use the word eternal so much, like maybe other religion? Because when you say eternal, it means that there's a beginning and then one becomes eternal. But in fact, there's no birth, no beginning, no end, okay? Infinite life. We are actually already like that, except here we need to experience this repeated birth and death. We need to experience this repeated illusion, which is really not fun. It's not a fun game. So let's get out of this. No birth, but one attains birth in that land. Although our true essence is no birth, but still, this is not to deny the phenomena in the Pure Land. Okay, the phenomena in the Pure Land resonates with our Buddha nature, which is no birth and no death. And so the phenomena is actually real in the Pure Land. So this is not to deny, also one can attain birth in the Pure Land. Does that make sense? Okay, so not moving at all, but the true essence of who we are is actually not moving. Okay, a little bit abstract, a little bit vague, I know. And this is actually not to comprehend with our mental mind, okay? With our mental mind, you'll be like, well, but there's birth, there's death. No, this is actually beyond mind. The true essence of who we are is as it is, just as it is. No birth, no death. It cannot be said. Whatever we say, instantly we fall into concepts and attachment to concepts. Okay, but we all know all this when we go to the Pure Land. So now we just sort of hear this and that's enough. And he also said, take this verse and my last letter and convey them to the great teachers in all the directions. For my final event, I asked about Ding Hui and Venerable Bao Chuang to raise the fire in front of the niche according to this verse. Apart from this, I have nothing else. So niche in Buddhism, sometimes we host a Buddha statue with a niche, or for like a Dharma master who died. It can also be like a Buddhist coffin kind of thing. They can also put their body, his body into the niche, and then you can raise the fire. Because they're also like the Buddha, our Buddha nature is within all beings. So in fact, we are all Buddhas, just the difference is that we are maybe asleep or drunken Buddha, and others are awakened, real Buddhas. Okay, so after he finished speaking, he attained rebirth peacefully. That night, the sound of bells was heard from far away, and the room was filled with unique and wonderful fragrance. Okay, again, just auspicious signs of rebirth. Again, which they did not need to happen, but when this happened, it's always great. One can, definitely assure that this person has definitely attained rebirth. But even without this, if you know this person, Nianfo with faith and vow, then you can be sure that he attained rebirth to the Pure Land. Because from the sutra, we've been told like that. So he obviously knew the time of his rebirth, right? He already sort of prepared everything in advance, wrote a verse, let people know, already told other people like how to take care of his, what to do, after he died. Right, so this is just a performance of maybe a great Bodhisattva or even a Buddha who came back to fulfill maybe his mission here. Later, when the niche was set up, Venerable Fayun was still heard saying the Buddha's name, and his clear and bright voice surrounded the ears. After the cremation, there were countless relics. He lived for 71 years and was a monk for 57 years. Okay, so even after he discarded the physical body, people could still hear he was reciting the Buddha's name. And then relics, countless relics after the cremation. So relics are quite commonly found for people also with great Dharma practice. And also for a lot of people who sought rebirth to the Pure Land, you can see the relics. Recently, Master Jiawen, the Chan master who sought rebirth, also left with a lot of relics when they, after the cremation, they saw a lot of relics and there were also photos of them. Okay, so it's a relatively long rebirth case, but very interesting and very inspiring. So let's do a merit transfer. We vow to be born in the Western Pure Land, have the 9 great lotuses as our parents. When the lotuses open, we'll see the Buddha and realize the Dharma of no birth and no death, with non-regressing bodhisattvas as our companions. So may all beings hear the name of Amitabha Buddha and be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss. We also transfer the merit to the Venerable Master Ching Kong. May he sought rebirth in the highest level of the highest grade and comes back instantly to help all sentient beings. Namo Amituofo Buddha. Namo Amituofo.